The Detroit Lions are coming off their bye week tomorrow, and they should be well rested. We are getting David Montgomery back. He should be healthy. Probably not 100%, but Dan Campbell said it the best and during HBO Hard Knocks, said you won't be 100% until March during the off season. So there you go with that. So hopefully we can get kind of that two-headed monster to eat up the Chargers tomorrow. But tomorrow is a big game for the Detroit Lions when it comes to the rest of the season. I mean, every week it's a big game, but for several reasons, it's a big game going into week 10. I wouldn't call it a must win, but it's a necessary win. It's a win that they need to get tomorrow. We're not even close to must win at this point as far as playoff seeding and such, but each win, it gets more condensed. The margin of error, it gets smaller and smaller. So let me show you what is at stake exactly for the Detroit Lions heading into week 10. So this is the week 10 schedule, and the Take Bowl was Thursday. That game was abysmal. Tyson Bagent beat the Carolina Panthers, but yeesh, it is tough sledding for them. But games that directly affect the Detroit Lions, the San Francisco 49ers right here, coming off a 3-game losing streak, are 5-3. The Jacksonville Jaguars are playing at home at 6-2. This is a big game for Detroit because they need to keep the San Francisco 49ers off of that number 2 seed right now. But right now, the 49ers, we're going to talk about that later, where they are. They're not leading their division at this point, but a win tomorrow by the San Francisco 49ers could make that much more interesting down the stretch. The Jacksonville Jaguars are 6-2 hosting. The Saints are heading to US Bank Stadium to play the Minnesota Vikings. And this is probably, in order of important games, this is probably up there, number 1 or 2 at the least, because of what this means. So a Saints win would keep the heading into our game. This is an early game. This would keep the Minnesota Vikings 3 games behind the Detroit Lions for the division. So if you're following along, we want a Jaguars win and we want a Saints win, although we play the Saints in about 3 weeks. Then, of course, the Packers and the Steelers. Now, a week ago, this was not a big deal, but it kind of has become one, because if the Steelers lose to the Packers go up to 4-5, and all of a sudden, they are now 3 games behind the Detroit Lions. It'll be 3.5, I believe, with the tie-breaking loss. So the Detroit Lions will have 2 losses to their 5, and then that half game as well. So we would want a Steelers win just to kind of keep the Green Bay Packers at bay. Buccaneers, they haven't won a game since before they played us. That's not really a concern. None of these are as well. The Cowboys is not really a big deal. Last week against the Eagles, that was a big deal. But this one right here, we would love a Commanders win over the Seahawks to keep the Seahawks at bay. And that's pretty much it. So it's 3 games that we want to really keep an eye on. Commanders, and that's going on when ours is going on. Commanders hosting going to the Seahawks. We also want to keep an eye. I mean, we can keep an eye on that one. But, of course, our game, and then the game against the San Francisco against the Jacksonville Jaguars. Now, why is it important? Why is it such a big deal, in my opinion, a necessary win for the Detroit Lions? Because let me show you that, like I said, this is my favorite time of year. People like to talk draft and all that stuff, but I love this time of year, right? Week 10, as a matter of fact, this coming Wednesday, as we go into week 11, the start of week 11, the ESPN playoff machine opens, and you can go through, and this is the first time in my history on YouTube that I've been talking to Detroit Lions that the Lions aren't playing from behind. It's not how the Detroit Lions can make the playoffs with a losing record. I started this in 2018, and we've never really had. 2018 was Matt Patricia's first, the man who shall not be named, first year. So I haven't been able to play from ahead and do this, how the Detroit Lions can secure the NFC North or secure a playoff seed or whatever the situation. Now, why is this such a big deal? The Eagles are off tomorrow. They do not play. No matter what happens tomorrow, the Eagles are the number 1 seed, and they will remain that way till at least week 11 when they come back and they play the Kansas City Chiefs. Right now, with a win tomorrow, no matter what happens in the rest of the NFC, the Detroit Lions stay at number 2. Now, if the Detroit Lions lose and the the 49ers win, I'm not sure who holds the tiebreaker there. It is possible that the tiebreaker, that the 49ers can jump the Detroit Lions and the Lions move from 2 to 3. Now, if the Seahawks win their game against the Washington Commanders and the Detroit Lions lose, the Lions will move to 3. The Seahawks will then jump up and take number 2 over the 49ers. The 49ers will drop back into the number 5 seed. And again, the Cowboys and Vikings don't really affect us. The Cowboys don't, but the Vikings do. Now, here's where it gets really, really good, in my opinion. If the Detroit Lions lose, which I don't think they will, but if they lose and they go to 6-3, and the Vikings win and go to 6-4, all of a sudden, this is now a 1-game lead. A 1-game lead the Detroit Lions will have against the Minnesota Vikings. So not only a loss by the Detroit Lions and a win by the Seahawks will bump the Detroit Lions from 2 to 3 and then put the Seahawks from 5 to 2. It would send the 49ers from 3 to 5. And all of a sudden, the Minnesota Vikings could potentially leapfrog the Dallas Cowboys with a loss to the Giants. I don't think that's going to happen. The Giants are terrible. So it's probably going to be no change here. But all of a sudden, I mean, just like that, the Detroit Lions can have a 1-game lead against the Minnesota Vikings that we haven't played them yet. Now, a win by the Detroit Lions, all it does is secures them the number 2 seed for the remainder of week 10. And again, coming back, the Eagles play the Chiefs in Arrowhead in week 11, and then the Lions play the Chicago Bears at home. They have 2 home games, both the 19th and the 23rd on Thanksgiving. So this is a big opportunity for the Detroit Lions to keep pace, keep that pressure on the number 1 seed. So a win by the Detroit Lions, no matter what happens in the rest of the NFC, they cannot drop below number 2. A loss, however, puts them worst case scenario at number 3, and it makes things, and a win by the Minnesota Vikings makes things a ton interesting. So like I said, I love this time of year. We haven't even played the Minnesota Vikings once yet, so we'll see how that goes. A win by the Detroit Lions, a loss by the Minnesota Vikings makes it a 3-game lead for the Detroit Lions heading into week 11. A loss by the Detroit Lions, a win by the Minnesota Vikings cuts the division lead to 1 game, and we don't even play each other we don't play them until the day after Christmas, I believe it is. That's our first game against the Minnesota Vikings. So we still have 6 weeks before we play them. But this is not a must win for the Detroit Lions, but it would be, like I said earlier, a necessary, probably the same thing, but they need to win this game. They need to win this game to create that separation and to keep pressure on the Philadelphia Eagles, because again, a win by the Detroit Lions, period. The Eagles will remain number 1. They can't be moved. The Lions with a win cannot be moved as well. And as we head into the week 11 matchup against the Bears. Now, no word on whether Justin Fields will return or not. If we play Tyson Bagent, that's a absolute W. The only issue we have to worry about with Justin Fields, if he does play, and if he does play, he's not going to be 100%. But again, we don't really have to worry about his arm as much as his legs, but I still think we come out victorious. If the Detroit Lions win this game against the Chargers and they beat the Chicago Bears, they beat the Green Bay Packers, that'll be a 4-game winning streak that the Lions will be on. That will put them at 9-2 heading into week 13, I think. And here's the thing. The Lions by that time could have the number 1 seed. So if we want to get the number 1 seed, it's going to be very, very necessary that we get a win tomorrow. That's all we need to do is win. The Lions need to handle their business. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel. Hit that notification bell for every video from me. And with that being said, you guys are awesome. Take care of yourself and each other. And as always, go Lions.